looking at the first Sega Master System game ever made. Well, Sega Mark III to be more precise. Hang-On can be played straight from the system memory in some earlier models of Master System, but when it first came out, it was a My Card game, just like every launch year Mark III game was. The first US release of Hang-On came out in 1986, and I know for a fact it would get two variations of cartridge releases, paired with the same games it was bundled in those earlier models of the console, Astro Warrior or Safari Hunt. But I want to go over these games based on their Japanese release dates, which is why we're here. This is probably the best launch game of the bunch. The game is very simple, as my card games tend to be, but it's a really decent home conversion of the arcade game of the same name. But don't take my word for it, just look at the two side by side. It's almost impossible to tell which is the arcade game and which is the Master System version. In all seriousness, this is better than it looks, and if you try to put yourself in the shoes of a kid or a teenager playing this in late 1985, it's an impressive attempt compared to what racing games you had on Nintendo's hardware. As you can probably tell, you're not racing against opponents, you race against time. Your goal is to make it to the end of a course, which is split into 5 segments. Later segments have you race through the afternoon, the night, and the morning after. That's right, you're racing for 24 hours straight and your bike must run on your hopes and dreams because it sure as heck doesn't run on gas. If you played OutRun, this is basically the proto OutRun. It's even designed by the same creator, Yu Suzuki, the Gunpei Yokoi of Sega. If you don't know who Yokoi was, he was one of Nintendo's most prominent designers through the 80s and 90s, and Miyamoto's mentor. The name Hang-On is supposed to reference a maneuver professional bikers do where they lean so much to the side their knees almost touch the road. Look, that's the best explanation I can give, I don't know the first thing about bikes. Anyway, some of you might know this is actually called a hang-off, not a hang-on. According to Yu Suzuki, he eventually found out about the mistake, but it was too late. That's probably for the best, because Hang-On has a better ring to it than Hang-Off as a video game title. Unlike OutRun, you don't get a radio to play awesome 16-bit music. All you get are a few short tracks outside of the races and the constant 8-bit engine noises during races. Personally, I wasn't very annoyed by this, and you probably shouldn't let it bother you either, because the sound of the engine is extremely important to listen to if you want to get anywhere with this game. The little depth there is in Hang-On has to do with the power slides. Like the origin of the title suggests, you're expected to hang off very often. But if you simply try to steer while holding the accelerate button, either the sharp curves will make you fall off the track and crash, or the lack of control will make you crash against other bikers. The secret lies in telling the two types of curves apart. If it's a soft curve, you can simply let go of the accelerate button to better control your position in the track lanes, preventing yourself from sliding off track or hitting bikers. Now if it's one of the sharp curves, simply letting go won't help you. These curves force you to get used to shifting gears, which is the ideal way to handle curves without sacrificing time. Gear shift is done with a D-pad, and you can tell it changed looking at the speed level indicator at the top of the screen. They range from low to top, and you always start a race at low. You're supposed to stay on top for as long as possible, but to make a smooth transition from the start, you want to change gears when your speed is close to reaching the maximum speed in that gear. And most importantly, you're supposed to shift gears on curves, especially the sharp ones. Shifting back to mid has always been more than enough in my experience playing. You basically learn to change back and forth between mid and top while driving through the curves to have full control of your position. When you get good enough, you try to squeeze as much of the top speed as you can in the sharp curves. Until then, just try to keep to mid before you notice the track is about to go straight again. The reason we want to make sure you hear your engine is because it can be easy to forget to look at your gear indicator. The revving of the engine really helps distinguishing how fast you're going. This kind of sound implementation in a console board of a racing game from '85 is seriously underrated. If you're not used to games like OutRun or Red Racer, this is not an easy game to beat, even in the lowest difficulty. The time limit is very strict and you want to get as much extra time as you can towards the later segments, so it's important to finish the first few with spare time. Thankfully you don't stop your tracks right away when the time runs out. You slowly lose speed before stopping, which gives you some small final push if you run out close enough to the checkpoint. And you can tell the distance from the indicator in the heads-up display. I really only have 2 negative points to mention. First, there is no multiplayer. I get that for these panoramic racing games of that era, multiplayer was very rare outside of arcades, but it's worth mentioning if you're somewhat new to a retro game. Second, if you play this with the original Master System controller, those sharp curves are going to be the bane of your existence. That terrible, awful, trash of a D-pad can't be trusted with the precision it takes to change back and forth between gears. And you just cannot beat any of the difficulty modes without using the speed shift in the curves. Don't even try to argue against that. When you think about it, games like Enduro, Hang-On, Red Racer and Outrun are kind of in the same branch of racing games. Third person with tracks that give the illusion of racing against time towards the horizon while avoiding bumping into other vehicles. What do you think they would be called if internet as we know it existed back then? Enduro-likes? Hang-On-likes? Or maybe Hang-On-duros? Thanks for watching and take care.